Welcome to Channel Security Secrets. I'm Lou Raban. On this show, we expose the untold secrets and critical insights from the people shaping the future of cybersecurity sales in the Trusted Advisor channel. If you're looking to up your game around selling security, stick around. Channel Security Secrets is brought to you by Cyber Defense Group, on a mission to shift cybersecurity from reactive to resilient. We have an esteemed guest on the show today. He's a master of scalable growth and a recognized channel visionary with over 25 years of experience running technology companies. He was named one of Channel Future's Channel Influencers of the Year. He has successfully led five company exits through high-impact acquisitions and propelled companies to hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. Currently the CEO at Amplix, Dan Gill, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lou. Well, that was way too kind. I feel like I should have some walk-up music or something behind me.
Yeah, we need to get some. That's a good recommendation.
I appreciate it. And you took 5 years off my age by saying 25 instead of 30. So thank you.
Oh, well, that's awesome. We'll have to correct that or just take it.
No, I like that. I like it. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great pleasure to have you here because of your experience. So, just to jump right into it, what's the biggest secret to your success in the channel?
Yeah. So thinking of Amplix and myself, and I'll focus a little bit on security too, because obviously, that's your sweet spot and something you care about and a topic. There's four things that really come to mind around that. I think first and foremost is being customer-centric always. Like that is something we live and die by every day. I always tell people don't get lost in the mess of commission rates and spiffs and, all the stuff that goes into this. It's really, you find the right solution from your customer, regardless of how it impacts you financially. And so the best people in our business grow through referrals and earning the right to help their customers with multiple, technology areas and solution needs. And so you only do that by being customer centric. So that's number one. Two is, really think of the world in terms of the problems you solve and the outcomes you help deliver, right? With security, you're not selling something. You're helping a business operate and scale securely while protecting the most critical assets. You need to think that way and you need to speak that language when you're talking to decision makers in that realm. And that's not just security. That's any significant technology area, security, cloud, CX, what have you. Next, I think is really about investing in the expertise that you need to have these conversations and then to be honest about your limitations. So when I talk to team, credibility is paramount in advising on security solutions. And so you got to have some expertise on your team. You need to train folks and get them access to training. And you should not wade into areas where you lack credible knowledge, right? The way I think of it is the stakes around security are so high for our customers. We need to be transparent about what we're good at. And then when we need to refer them to someone else who might be better suited to help them. And you have to be honest with yourself around that stuff to do it right.
Yeah. Sorry, just to jump in on that. That's really interesting because I think that's one of the problems in the channel right now with selling security because they're afraid without having the expertise that they can't be credible. So how do you, address that?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's multiple avenues, right? Like I think trusted advisors either invest in it directly, bring folks into the organization like we have with, and I know you've experienced working with Dan and Jeff Lieberman and others in our company. We made a direct investment. I think that's the best path to this because it's important as an advisor that you own those strategic conversations and you're not outsourcing the strategic conversation to some other things like relying on someone from a TSD to be your security expert. There's great ones. I think you had Stefan on a episode or Will from Avant. He's phenomenal. Talaris is great folks. But I think it's important as a trusted advisor to have that expertise in-house so that you're owning that conversation. So that's first. invest yourself. The other is there are great people at the TAs. Um, there are consultative vendors, but there's less of those in the portfolios we have access to. There's not a lot of you in the
Right.
portfolio, right?
Thankfully, right?
And yeah, no, it's good for
For
you.
us, yeah.
Scarcity is good for you. Um, and so it's hard to rely on the vendors. Like when you rely on a provider of MDR, it's hard to get unbiased approach there. Even though they're well-meaning and do great work and might provide great services, like we like to have that expertise in house, or have a partner that can lead the strategy conversation without a view on downstream solutions. Just how do we get the right posture for the customer? Then we can worry about what are the downstream solutions.
Yeah, so bringing the expertise in-house as far as having someone that's responsible for security. They have the title, "This is our security specialist."
Yep.
Even if they're not someone that's necessarily been a practitioner before, that would be ideal, obviously, and those are the ones that we have the most success with. But, I for some of the smaller, TA companies, obviously Amplix is one of the biggest ones. So, what about the smaller TAs? I guess if they don't, we tell them to rely on us. We tell them that when they hear certain keywords, or when it starts to go down the path of security, we try to enable them. And then we say, okay, when it gets to a certain point, you want to say, listen, and you mentioned that too. You want to be honest. You don't want to start to pretend that you're the expert as a TA. If you don't have that knowledge, it's better to say, I don't know, but I know someone, rather than fudge it, because to your point, credibility, especially in security, you can lose it pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, people get fired over lapses, and businesses have millions or tens of millions of dollars at stake related to these things. Like, so transparency, you just have to. Like, if you want to do right by that customer, you got to be honest about your limitations. I think for the small advisor, look, there's ways you can do it. All right, you can have an advisory board, even as a small advisor, where you've got certain practitioner experts from your network that you can bring in on special, projects or occasions, or conversations with customers, right? So maybe they're not a full-time employee, but they're someone you can access, who's excited to do it and has the right background. I think that's a good way to do it. If you can't go hire someone, not everybody's got the budget to do that. And then, yeah, like you said, it's harder to find though in the portfolio. So you might have to look outside your portfolio to find the boutique consultant that is security focused, that is of the right size, that they're willing to engage with a smaller TA who happens to have some good customers, and then can take that unbiased approach that's consultative and posture driven and strategy driven, and not immediately tactical and about a small set of services that exist in the portfolio.
Right. Yeah, we've seen that too, where it's a per seat licensing basis. They're trying to shove into their model, to your point, which is there's a need. I mean, MDR, as you used as the example, that is definitely kind of table stakes for a lot of companies that are starting their security journey. They're like, okay, we need monitoring. We know we need some type of monitoring. That's not a full security program, and that's obviously what we're providing, but at least they're getting in there. The problem is when those vendors start to say they do some of the things that we do or other consulting companies do, and what they're doing is tacking it on. They're basically outsourcing it to a company, like one or two people that maybe are practitioners, but it's not really part of their core competency, but they're doing it to capture the revenue so they can, get their foot in the door, or just pretend they can land and expand. So do you think that that's a good strategy to kind of like have MDR tack on some things, or do you think they should just admit honestly that, hey, we're an MDR company and that's it?
Yeah, it depends on the company, right? Like there are some that legitimately have the right people and resources internally to have broader conversations, and they provide some downstream solutions. So the customer has to decide whether that feels comfortable to them or not. And then, yeah, I don't think folks who don't have that as a real practice, and it's just a side gig tack on type thing, then I think that becomes more risky for the TA and the customer. So I do think it's possible for companies to invest in both and have legitimate practices. Uh, but there's not many that can credibly do that. And so, you know, I like the unbiased third party approach that, may not provide some of the downstream services. And I think the challenge is this is an interesting topic. So if you ask TAs if they sell security, most will say yes. And it's because they've done one or more MDR deals. Either they've got a great MSP partner that also does MDR, or they've sold one of the couple handfuls of MDR vendors in the platform. And what we're missing is they got to do it because they had a customer who loves them and had already made a strategic decision and just came to them for some tactical help. And they'd earned the right for them to come to them, and it's great. But you're not owning the security strategy conversation, and that it's very transactional. And it's different the way the legacy TA approaches network or UCAS or these things where they can have the strategy conversation and the design conversation or all those things because they have tremendous capability and talent. And so that's what I mean about investing in the expertise. Because if we're just transactional about the security elements and around just things like MDR and stuff, we're going to end up losing some of those to VARs and integrators and MSPs just doing this stuff. There's a lot of MSPs who are direct and aren't even in the channel. And so you're going to start, if you're not having the strategy conversation and you're purely transactional, you won't scale that security business. And eventually you'll start losing those opportunities to people who are selling them other security technology.
And we've seen that over and over again. Plus the risk, to your point, when the experts come in for UCAS, CCAS, they're saying, we've done this. We know how this is done. There can be, maybe a mistake with a vendor that's chosen, and then they have to kind of do some, firefighting to get that vendor across the line for whatever. Maybe one of the vendors, one of the products is not, they have an update that takes things down or whatever. But at the end of the day, the risk there is a lot lower, in my opinion. You could convince me otherwise, but I think with security, if you go in and project yourself as the expert, you do something transactional, you say, oh yeah, this is going to be the thing that you need. And then all of a sudden something bad happens, to your point, that could be a very significant incident. We've seen it, we're called in obviously with incident response, and often it is the MSP, they've been brought in and they're not themselves doing certain secure practices. Like they're sharing passwords across clients. They're not getting paid to, look at the whole program holistically. So maybe there's some devices that are not, they didn't pay the per seat license or the per device license. So they're not covered for vulnerability management. And all of a sudden there's some kind of exploit. So I just think that, again, reinforcing your point of having someone that's, if not an expert, at least can speak to the holistic program rather than just the transaction. It's not only are they going to lose that business to another transactional, security company or someone that brings a little bit more value, but they're also introducing risk because they might be held accountable for some of the decisions they ask the customer to make without having the expertise.
100%. And we should be held accountable. Like if we're coming out and saying we can help you make this decision, like then we need to be accountable for how we help them and what the result is. It's interesting. There's big consequences on all this stuff, right? Like if the network's down and people can't access applications and do business, like that's a massive thing. It ties to revenue, ties to probably customer experience. If the UCAS or CCAS system's having problems, that touches the customer. That has real downstream impacts. But the security issues make the papers and the board meeting, right? And so
yeah, exactly.
because of just, the view of an organization who's had its data breached, or is, in the middle of a ransomware incident, or its employees, fell victim to phishing and exposed, like that kind of stuff escalates quickly. And it's really brand damaging and probably more damaging than individual outages on a system that a customer touches or something. So it is really, really heightened around that.
Yeah, we have a security spend paper that we posted online. There's hard costs and there's soft costs when you get hacked. The hard costs are, you've got to bring in a firm like ours to clean it up. You've got to bring in probably an MSP to redo a bunch of, the IT stuff, the network, the endpoints, et cetera, and lawyers, all that
Yeah,
stuff.
cyber insurance goes up, like the whole
Yeah,
yeah.
it's sometimes insurance will cover it,
Yeah.
right? But what the soft costs are, and it's what you're talking about, it's the reputational damage. I mean, you've been in sales almost your entire career. I'm learning a lot more about sales than I ever did. The pipeline, right? Like you guard that pipeline. If you give your customers any reason to look at the competitors, the competitors are jumping on that, number one. And number two, they're saying, okay, yeah, listen, we can't do business with you. We just saw that you were down, you're in the papers, et cetera. That's a soft cost because that hits your bottom line later, right?
Yeah.
As lower revenue, et cetera. And your pipeline decreasing, but that's not necessarily on a balance sheet. So it's not a hard cost, like, okay, we spend X. It's like lost opportunity cost.
Yeah. And and there's the uncomfortable board level conversation of how could you let this happen?
Yeah. Why did this happen? Sometimes the board has to look inward and say, oh yeah, we didn't approve.
We didn't give you the budget. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so no, it's all great stuff. I wanted to go back, you're talking about outcomes. I was very proud to have trademarked the term outcomes-based security, which led to probably zero revenue. But
It sounds cool though.
yeah, it's because everything's about outcomes, and
Yeah.
it's interesting that you're talking about that. So, what do you consider to be, when you're selling or your team is selling solutions, are they always aligning with outcomes like the business and things like that?
Outcomes are challenges, right? Sometimes there's existing challenges. Like I've got XYZ problem I need to solve. Some are more outcome driven. Like if I'm SOC 2 compliant and can be audited and say that, then I can sell to more people and I can more easily pass the vendor risk process or the
Yeah, yeah, procurement.
and deal with procurement in ways that I couldn't before, right? That's a common one. Obviously there's frameworks around HIPAA and PCI and government related business. Those are all kind of outcome driven things for customers trying to find their way to be compliant and within those realms. There's outcomes tied to the launches of specific products or initiatives or migrations to the cloud or all those things that require posture enhancements, right? And or it's obtaining and staying in compliance with cyber insurance.
Oh yeah, that's a big one now.
And it is, and it's not just about getting insurance because when it comes time that something goes bump in the night, and something can go bump in the night for just about anybody these days. Right?
Mhm. Oh yeah.
Nobody's beyond the reach of the bad actors and attack vectors. So you have to stay in compliance, or they'll find a reason not to pay the claim.
Oh gosh, yeah, yeah, we've seen it.
And so we're always reminding customers, not just about obtaining the coverage. It's you need to stay within the parameters of that and make sure you're doing the testing and the auditing and the assessments and all the things you need to do to make sure you're there, because the policy is not very good if it's not really worth much if they can't reimburse you for something.
Yeah, you're paying the premiums, but and we all know insurance companies, they're gonna try to wiggle out of anything that they can to
Right.
pay if possible. So yeah, it says, hey, you must maintain a certain security posture, and it's, intentionally vague. And so they can poke holes, and really almost no one can, not no one, but there's very few companies that are doing the right thing. And the right thing is even not just hiring someone. We see that too, where they're like, well, we'll give you the security title. You're now director of IT and security. And it's like, but their job is keeping the lights on, and they don't really have time. And so they're, doing the best they can, but that's not a proper security posture. It's really having a team that's dedicated to making sure that you're doing all the right things. And it is a certain size company, right? I mean, we've seen SMB. We have played in that space in the past, more startup level, but they don't have the resources for, and our team is, highly skilled, obviously. So that's not really the area we play in, and they have a gap. That's where MSPs can really fill in because they can do the beginnings of that. So SMB has kind of the MSP market. But when it comes to mid market and especially enterprise usually has their stuff together, at least Fortune 500 or Global 2000 or whatever. But and when I say that, having come from those environments, I'm not implying that the teams are effective, but at least they have the head count and the tools and
Yeah.
things like that. But when it comes to mid market, I think that that's the big opportunity, and only a couple industries are starting to wake up. I think. Are you seeing this too? Like certain industries that traditionally hadn't been in security are now kind of jumping on board.
I mean, all the regulated industries or industries subject to data privacy laws and regulations in the mid
Yeah,
market, we
yeah,
see wanting and asking for help. The If you look at the stack of people and technologies to do all of this yourself and properly protect an environment, it's almost unreachable to do it properly for a mid market company. They need help.
yeah,
And the good news is there's providers like yourself and the MSSPs and different folks that can get them access to the entire stack and services in a way that doesn't cost a fortune and is broader than what they could do on their own. And so, and even that Fortune 500, they fall victim a little bit to the, hey, I've got the budget, so I'm going to hire a bunch of people and buy a bunch of tools
exactly.
approach to it.
Yeah,
And it's still hard to manage. The the defense is not a human scale problem anymore because the bad actors are using AI and sophisticated approaches. It's okay to get help, and it makes sense to get help. Like you might start finding the mid market better protected in some cases because they have no choice but to seek help, and they end up with broader strategies and capabilities that are better managed than even in some big companies who are more of a go it alone. And I get it. Like you sit with a CISO of a Fortune 500 company. That's a brilliant individual that is highly capable and will know just incredibly talented folks. So you get the desire and the impulse to do it internally, and they hire really great people. But the problems change so dynamically. It's hard to manage it with bodies. Like you need help from service and technology in different areas, and it's okay to go get that help. And we're seeing more conversations with big customers, not just mid-market because of that dynamic.
yeah. Yeah, and there's something to be said about those. Absolutely right, Dan. And it's really interesting that you said about the mid market perhaps being better protected because there's truth to that. I think I hadn't thought of it, but it's actually very relevant because also in the mid market, you've got a team that's small enough where you don't have eight different heads of eight different departments that have to put their input. Usually in the mid market, it's like, okay, we need to do this. The board says we need to do it. The C suite's aligned and then you get to work. Whereas in, Fortune 500, you might have, yeah, so many people that have to have their input. The project doesn't even get started for a year or two because, this person isn't in the meeting or now we have to rehash everything.
And complex procurement processes.
Oh gosh, yeah.
But what's interesting, the mid-market has the opportunity, right? I think it's easier for them to get to a really strong footing because of their nimbleness, the fact that they really have no choice but to get help. So they're going to end up, but they traditionally make bad, ven, you know, can make really, not always, but can make really bad vendor
Big
decisions
time.
because
Yeah,
they have folks who are spread very thin doing a million things that don't. This is why TAs exist, right? Because they don't have the internal time and resources to make optimized decisions where you're doing proper evaluations across a set of vendors with detailed data about their performance and their pricing. And, they'll Google search, come up with three or four vendors, or look at the Gartner Magic Quadrant, get three or four vendors, and then the best salesperson wins.
exactly.
And that's not a
Exactly.
path to an optimum decision. So the opportunity is there to be incredibly well protected because of the universe of providers available to them and the fact that they have no choice but to get help. But if you don't run the decision process correctly, you can still end up in a bad place where you have that MSP that's not really qualified to do some of those things, but you like them because they did your help desk and three other things, or your peer said, "Hey, these guys are great," or their salesperson was just better than than the other folks who came in.
Or it's just easier. Like, well, we're using them for this. They're gonna
Yeah.
tack on these things. They say they do security. We need to tick the box. Let's do it. But ticking the box is not adequate anymore.
No, not if you wanna be secure and feel and sleep really well. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, I feel like there's like a couple generations of decisions in security. One of them is, in the beginning, maybe let's hire someone to do this, or let's give the title to someone. Then it was our MSP can do it. They're doing other things for us. To your point, now we're kind of in either generation three or generation four, which is okay. Now we've been through this. Oh, generation three, sorry, is VCISO. We're going to hire someone as a VCISO or VCISO. And what that will be is one person that might have phenomenal enterprise experience as a CISO, but they don't have a team behind them. And they're kind of just saying, do this and come back in a month. And did you do that? Relying on the customer to actually do the work. So now I feel like we're at Gen 4, which is now we need a team. If we're going to either do it internally, we've got to spin up a team that's going to take time, interviewing, all that stuff, or they outsource it to someone who's a specialist. Obviously that's our value prop, but that's, I think, where the market is moving, because they've had, the buyers have had they've made these decisions over years, and they're seeing no success, no success, no success, and that's where we fit in. So I think finding that outsourced specialized team that is the people and process part, not just the technology, that's the secret sauce, especially in the mid market.
The interesting thing too is when you get that help externally, they have a broader purview than you do, right? You just see what's in front of you in your own environment, and maybe through peers in your industry, you have somebody's. But when someone's looking across multiple industries, across multiple companies of all different sizes, there's a lot of information about the different ways bad actors try to exploit different things in different industries, different size companies. There's a lot of extra expertise that I think is really valuable too. When we talk about on the trusted advisor model, we have access to all this pricing information, vendor performance information, and how vendors work and integrate with certain things, and how long it takes this vendor to turn up a service versus this vendor. All this data that an internal IT team never has themselves. It's the same thing here. Like the broader view into what's going on in the dynamic that dynamic environment is invaluable to folks that even if they've hired a great team, that team is busy doing what's in front of them and isn't necessarily in tune to everything that's going on and all the different things across different industries and different customer sizes, different vectors.
Exactly. Often they'll hire someone probably that can't do everything as well, and so that person will need help,
Yeah.
because they can oversee it, but they're not going to. They expect them sometimes to do everything, maybe with some help from IT. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So what's you've been in the channel for a while, a while. You know this really well. Not 25, 30.
No, well, I mean, in technology that long. I've only been in the channel for about 5 years, believe it or not.
Okay, so how's it changed for you? Have you seen like a big change, or I've only been in the channel for probably 3 maximum, like really deeply in the channel. I work for, a couple companies that were channel partner focused, but yeah, what are you seeing a big change, like evolution?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed dramatically, right? The influx of private equity investment and just change in the trusted advisor business models, and new competitive sets that are appearing is caused significant change just in the 5 years I've been involved. Um, you know, Before that, you didn't have hugely scaled trusted advisors, right? Now you have folks like Amplix that have 300 employees and, have acquired 11 businesses and multiple enhanced capabilities and can serve a much broader stack of technologies and can also go much deeper in terms of the services we provide. So that's a different landscape for advisors to figure out where the industry is going and for the vendors to figure out how to support them, and same with the TSDs. So that's been a big change. People trying to figure out, do I scale my business myself? Do I invest in it? Do I look at an acquisition opportunity? If I am going to look, what's the right model for me and my employees and my customers? There's a lot there. So there's change there. I think the competitive environment's changed. You've got certain vendor categories where you see the vendors starting to compete a little bit, like in the TEM world. It's probably outside your realm, but where they're starting to procure circuits for customers, which kind of overlaps the TAs that they brought in. Might see some of that in the MSP world from those that are not in the channel, where they're doing things that overlap some of the things
Right.
we do. We're seeing large consulting firms. Like we've had head-to-head competitive situations on CX with Big Four firms and won.
Yeah, they need to diversify because they're bleeding on some of their contracts and stuff.
Well, it's a logical extension of some of the things they do, so I get it, but the tactical expertise they lack,
Right.
right? And so it's foreign territory, and so we've been successful in competing with some of those, but we're seeing them. We didn't see them 2, 3 years ago in those types of opportunities. And then just the other is the rapid onslaught of AI and desire to use AI and explore AI is creating all kinds of conversation, not just around the applications of it and how to make a business case around it and how to do it properly to start, but what does this mean for my infrastructure and how does that need to change? What does this mean for my security posture? How does that need to change? Do I even have a data strategy and data management platform that even allows me to do these things, right? So it's creating conversations that advisors historically didn't have, but can now. So it's opened up tremendous revenue growth opportunities for our channel to be the ones that help people drive those outcomes and solve those challenges. But it requires some investment and some expertise and the ability to really go after it and service customers with the same expertise that you do in our traditional categories. But that's changing everything. The conversations are so different with C-level executives at mid-market and enterprise companies than they were even when I started 5 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, AI, I mean, it's almost like we have to discuss AI, but, AI, security is data security. You hit the nail on the head. It's, anyone that wants to use it, we had a conversation, the other day about, yeah, they're like, "So what should we do?" And it's like, "Well, where's your data? Who's using it? What's sensitive? Do you have a way to determine if it's going anywhere in your or outside your environment?" Because that's what you wanna protect with the
Yeah.
AI is yeah, so and it's getting tough. I mean, like the big guys are spending like Anthropic and OpenAI and Meta and Grok. They're all spent Google, Apple. They're spending hundreds of billions of dollars on data centers and stuff like that. So, where does in the mid market they can't spin up necessarily that kind of scale. So they're not going to market with an AI product. They're just looking to use their own kind of AI perhaps internally. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're looking to utilize these solutions and harness different solutions. Customer experience is the place we see it most frequently because there's real ROI and there's real business case you can make on creating efficiency in your customer service strategy and and creating enhanced customer experiences through big smart companies know like if we do this, it produces this much revenue, it reduces churn by this much, it does all these things. So we've got, a 20-person team at that just does AI and CX applications at Amplix. Like that's how significant and how quickly the success is moving in that particular category. But then you have the other conversations of, other business applications and support for data science teams and different things that are more complex and taking longer, or someone's board has said, why aren't we using AI? You need to use AI. And so they roll Copilot out to everybody and nobody really knows why or what they're doing with it. But now people are at least answering questions and getting content written for them, right? As a part of that. But it's like, okay, but what data is that pulling from? What's it accessing from a security perspective? Is there bias in those data sets that are making the results and things coming out of it not appropriate for the business or not value driving for the business? Like there's so much that goes into this that we wrestle with people and there's risk. Like if you have a poor first project and experience with it, then it's hard to get support for more.
Right.
And you don't want to stifle innovation because you had you didn't dot all your I's and cross your T's in your approach. That's really where we talk to folks. Like, let's find a place where we can control what we're going to do, have success that proves value to the business, so that we can get you a broader purview to go think about AI across your organization, and not get limited because it didn't produce the results, or you didn't do the right work with the CISO and the compliance team, and now they're upset, and
Right.
everything's frozen.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It's exciting though. I mean, as a technology, it really is such a game changer as everyone's seeing. You've invested, so Amplix is invested in heavily into AI and CX, and you're already seeing an ROI on that.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Both in terms of services we provide customers, our ability to impact their bottom line by using the technology and implementing it, our ability to impact their CSATs and growth through effective use of it. We've been doing it for a while, had significant success. And now we're having a lot of conversations on broader just infrastructure. How do you have the right data management and security policies and environments? How do you manage costs associated with a lot of this stuff in the cloud and the cloud hosted databases that get accessed for these things? Um, how do I make sure I've got the right connectivity, the right workloads in the right place? All those things we're having more of those conversations now, but CX is lower hanging fruit for AI because it's been proven
Right.
in its effectiveness. And so we can move quickly with customers there.
That's excellent. Yeah, and you talked about the TAs too, the conversations they're having. Speaking about AI, we're talking about security obviously as well. What is the profile of like what's TA? Like what the not the perfect TA because it depends on the use case obviously, but let's say you're someone looking to get into this world. What do you think the profile is for that person that to have success?
Has success as a trusted advisor.
As a trusted advisor, yeah. Let's say somebody is, I don't know, they're coming out of college and they're like, or they're coming out of industry and they're like, you know what, I don't really want to do what I did as a career, but I've got all these C-suite connections and I want to be a trusted advisor. I want to get started, but what's what not what can they do, but what is their the profile of the person that you think would be successful at that?
Yeah, I think they have to be a solution seller. So the best sellers in the entire industry are not necessarily feet off the street that were just careers. It's the owners of these businesses. Like, they were all expert sellers before
Right.
they get into it, and they continue that expertise. They have a network of people that they've done something for that trust them, that are willing to listen, and they have some expertise in one or more categories that are sweet spots. And look, you could be a cloud only expert, right? You can maybe get a long background in cloud. Like, you can go start a trusted advisor with that background and do tremendous with just that, or security or CX, right? When we acquired Inflow CX, all they did was CX. They had 100 people in a trusted advisor organization doing nothing but CX. So having some expertise where you can really understand how to solve problems for folks early on, leveraging the tools and resources from the TSDs till you build your own infrastructure. But expert seller always works best. Like, it's hard to come from the practitioner or technologist side into this industry alone. Like, you have to have a selling capability and a network of people you can call on who trust you to get started. Selling today is harder than it's ever been.
Yeah.
Traditional sales and marketing efforts don't work in some cases, or
Most
work
cases.
and work with much less effectiveness.
Yeah.
So having a network. For people coming out of college, I always say, go learn someplace. Go learn how to sell. Go learn how to do consultative discovery. Go learn how to do these things in a good training program with a big vendor, or a mid-sized vendor that has a good program for this. Learn how to do it. Then build a network of people you help that support. Like, if you come out of college into something like this without access to a network of customers, it'll be such a slog the first few years.
Yeah. Pain.
There's a lot of pain.
Yeah, yeah, but I think the principles you discussed at the top of this podcast, where you were talking about, having integrity, customer centric, being honest about your skills, things like that. That's probably good advice for any TA. And the solution selling. That's my takeaway from what you're talking about too. Is no more transactional selling. You can only get there to a certain point. It's like the salespeople that contact the customer, a month or 2 before the renewal date, and they haven't spoken to them for a year. Like, you're not gonna, you're just a number. You're just another, annoying person in their inbox versus someone that's actually got a relationship with them and is trying to help them with the pain points.
Yeah, look, if you're transactional, even if you have success, you're so easily replaced.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. At the lowest, the next person with the lowest price, right? Yeah. So what's in the future for Amplix, and what excites you about what's going on there? Because there is a lot of exciting stuff going on there.
Yeah, so more strategic acquisition, right? We're looking to add expertise and capabilities in specific categories that we think are important to the next generation trusted advisor. Look, we're setting out with big goals. Like we're setting out to build, a definitive brand in a really important space. The industry is worth billions of dollars now, and it's got thousands of players, and there it still remains to be seen who the definitive brands and winners are. And we're trying to do it by adding value to our customers. What are more capabilities? How do we support the full life cycle of a technology investment better? From strategy to optimization and everything in between. And then we're growing really healthy organically. We'll continue to do that. Adding to the team, bringing in a lot of new customers, cross-selling to our existing customers. All that will continue. We'll continue to have a methodical approach to M&A as we've had. And, we still work with the TSDs and love engaging with those guys. We'll continue to do that. And
I constantly see, Amplix winning the top TA award at all of the TSDs. So you're obviously doing something right.
we've got a team of highly motivated, amazing people that work their rear ends off and treat each other like family. So it's a special environment.
Yeah, yeah, good people over there. We've worked with them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pivot quickly to to just you personally. First, do you have like a personal story that demonstrates where cybersecurity might have had some kind of impact on you or your
Um,
life?
yeah, I'm going to put work aside on this one, and like it's. I have two people in my life that I'm super close with that are a bit blissfully unaware of the risks associated. One is my elderly father.
I was gonna say it's got to be your parents, right, or one of them.
Yeah, who's got some. He's old. He's almost 80. He's got some cognitive slowing down, like type things.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
gets targeted on text message and email constantly.
it's disgusting.
It's really horrific. I don't think people
Yeah,
understand
yeah,
to the point where like I'm just happy he doesn't really know how to use his phone very well.
right. Give him a flip phone, basically.
So just trying to explain to him about not giving certain information ever, not clicking on anything ever, that stuff. And then I've got a teenager who's really bright, like a good math and science kid, super smart, can work devices like I'll never work devices or anything, but still doesn't understand the scope of bad actors and attack vectors and trying to get her to understand where and how she needs to be careful. And so these are constant conversations because doing what we do, we see scary stuff all the time.
Oh yeah,
And so,
oh
of course,
yeah.
I bring that home and I'm like, hey, did you know this? And, okay, dad. And I'm like, no, I'm serious. Like, this is actually something you need to worry about. I'm not just telling you about work today. And so that's been my kind of funny personal experience with it is there's like a constant dialogue with those two people that, I care about so much to try to help keep them out of harm's way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, no one is immune these days, and
No.
it's to your point. My mom's 94, and even earlier than that, yeah, she is constantly like we had to get her a special phone blocker for she's still got a landline, so we had to things like that because yeah, it's just and then on the email and things like that. Thank God she's not using that stuff anymore because it's just yeah, it's horrific.
Oh, and social media, like it's
Yeah, and now with AI, deep fakes and stuff, yeah, so that is pretty personal. Um, yeah, and then, Dan the man, you're in Massachusetts. You've got, I mean, I've got a list here of the organizations that you've been a part of, 5 exits. What do you think? And I don't know if that's even accurate. Is it 5 or is it even more than
No, no, no. It was, pre-channel. There were 4 startups that I was part of that I helped lead to exit. And then I helped put the 3 companies together that became Amplix and take on our private equity sponsor. I ran that process for us. So that would be the 5th. Although it actually involved 3 companies. So
Yeah.
this is kind of
1,
crazy.
2, 3. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy to think about. Yeah. So I've always been, I did a few years up front at big companies to learn how to sell, learn how to run a business, learn all those things. And then I went out and did venture backed and growth stuff from that point forward. And it's riskier, but really intellectually stimulating. And your contribution is magnified in the smaller environments. And it's really fun and cool to be a part of. And yeah, it's been a great ride.
Yeah, you can really see the impact.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting too, because I think a lot of people that have had exits, it's not always a successful exit. Like maybe they've been part of an organization, but they haven't really gotten what they were hoping, etc. But you have obviously learned probably through some pain points throughout the years.
100%.
Yeah,
Not every exit was like massively successful from a financial standpoint for all the investors and everybody, but getting to an exit is really hard, particularly as a venture-backed startup, right? They invest in 10, hoping 1 or 2 produce, right?
right, right,
And so, but sometimes there's outcomes that are modest that are really good, that are good for the customers and they're good for the employees because maybe there wasn't a huge financial windfall, but it became part of something bigger and continued forward.
right.
And the customers had great experience and the employees had career paths that they didn't expect. And, so I try to measure all of those results as a part of this. Of course, delivering for investors is very important. And I think about that every day. And all shareholders, internal and external. So,
Hmm. Yeah, not a lot of people have that experience, the breadth and depth
yep.
of experience that you do. So it's really impressive.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, and then, what do you do outside of work? You're, on the board of a couple nonprofits?
I am. So I've been involved with Big Brothers Big Sisters of now Eastern Mass. They've broadened since I got started. I was a big brother for almost 12 years, and then just started fundraising and offering advice on their advisory board, and then also the Joe Andruzzi Foundation, which helps directly provide funding to cancer patients in active treatment who are having
Wow.
financial troubles. So we're paying mortgages and utility bills and providing transportation and meals and dealing with food security issues, for thousands of patients who are in active treatment. And it's astounding. I think it's like more than 50% of cancer patients end up filing for some form of bankruptcy.
I mean, to be honest, I think that's criminal too, probably a conversation for another time,
Yeah,
but
that's a long conversation, but
yeah, yeah,
uh,
but I think, what you're doing, that's really impressive, Dan. You're giving back.
yeah,
Amazing.
thanks. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. And other than that, I'm a girl dad. I've got one daughter, and she's an amazing athlete.
What's your sport?
Softball. We travel all around the
Oh,
country
wow.
doing softball. I was just in your neck of the woods playing in the national championships in Huntington Beach for
Wow.
16U.
Amazing.
Her team, did really well, and she played great. And she's going to go play in college. And so, when I have free time, it's my wife and I with her traveling somewhere doing something softball related, pretty much.
Yeah, yeah, that's a huge commitment, especially these days because everyone takes it so, so serious.
Oh yeah, you can tell when
Yeah,
you see me. I'm a terrible golfer, and there's not. I when I can get out in the ocean, I want to, but I don't get to
yeah.
do it nearly enough.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're taking advantage of those days. I've got the 2 boys that are teens. My eldest is gonna be graduating high school
Yeah,
too, so soon you'll be, wanting to be as busy as you were with running around with softball and stuff, so it
yeah.
yeah, take advantage of it.
My wife and I, we joke like, "What are we gonna do next?" Like, when we have this time. Like, what are we gonna talk about? Like, where are we gonna go? What are we gonna do?
Yeah. Something tells me you'll figure it out.
No, you look forward to it, but you also are like, "Huh, that's right, I don't know." It's been like 17 years of all consuming, so I don't know.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah. That's the empty nest syndrome.
yeah.
So where can people find you? You're on LinkedIn, X. I don't know if you're active on
I'm
Twitter/X.
not as active as I don't
Yeah.
know, that platform the last couple of years, I've just spent less time, and LinkedIn's the
Yeah.
great place to reach me. People can reach
Same.
me just at dg@amplix.com, super simple. Um, and I love to talk to people, love to talk shop, spend lots of time talking to other owners, not about M&A, just about industry and what's going on. And, you know me pretty well. I'm an open book. I'm happy to
Yeah.
offer advice, experience. I'm happy to ask for advice from folks. And so I love
Yeah.
engaging with people.
You've been super generous with your time with me, helping me out. So
Yeah. Well, you're running a great business with a great product. So happy to do it.
thank you. Thank you, Dan Gill.
No, I appreciate it. This was great.
Yeah.
Look forward to keeping the dialogue going, and hopefully it's helpful for folks out there on the channel.
Big time. Yeah. Thanks to everyone that's watching and or listening. If you learned something today or laughed, please tell someone about this podcast. We're still new, so we want to spread the word. Thanks again, Dan.
Yeah.
And this has been another exciting episode of Channel Security Secrets. See you next time. That's a wrap for this episode of Channel Security Secrets. Thanks for tuning in. For show notes, guest info, and more episodes, visit us at channelsecuritysecrets.com. Channel Security Secrets is sponsored by Cyber Defense Group. When it comes to protecting your business, don't settle for reactive. Partner with experts who build resilience from the ground up.